What's cracking with y'all? It's your boy Prince the Hustle God, aka Wise the Warlock, aka Michelangelo Turner the Madman. Uh, welcome to episode 2 of the boxing breakdown. You are reaching your combat tool bag. It is a cool black affair. Shout out to the mighty LDBC. LDBC only. LDBC or nothing. LDBC versus everybody. LDBC everywhere. Um, so today we have a full plate, a full agenda, like a full schedule of things to talk about. So we're gonna dive right in. But before we do that, we gotta talk about 3 ways to support the channel. So of course there are three ways to support the channel. Um, Way number one is go to shopusualsuspect6.com. That's shopusualsuspect6.com and pick you up some combat tool bag merch and gear. Shopusualsuspect6.com for some combat tool bag merch and gear. We have warm weather gear, cool weather gear, shoes, combat tool bags, etc. We have a 4 book series right now, soon to be 5 book series. Working on the final installment. There is a collection of the 4 book series, all as one, called the Hustle God Methodology. But the 4 books that make up the Hustle God Methodology and the Hustle God series are Hustle God Masterpiece, Daily Golden Mind Molding, Hustle God's Linguistics of Money, The Language of the 1%, Hustle God's Afro Gold Part 1, and Hustle God Art of the Hustle. They are available on Amazon.com. You can type in Michelangelo Turner, or you could type in Hustle God series, and all 4 should pop up, or all 5, including the complete anthology or the complete series of it all. And the final way to support the channel is you could sponsor a fighter, you could sponsor a creator by diving into the Cash App. The cash tag is money sign Hustle God Inc. Money sign Hustle God Inc. That's all one word, Hustle God Inc. That said, we could dive all in. We could dive on in. Those are the 3 ways to support the channel. And again, welcome to episode 2 of the boxing breakdown. So for topic number 1, let's talk about Tyson Fury versus Derek Chisora 3. Um, just to get through it, there were 3 points that I wanted to address in the Tyson Fury Derek Chisora 3 scenario. And Tyson Fury, he fought in a manner, from what I could see, that was good old fashioned Tyson Fury. Very dirty. His very like very extremely dirty boxing tactics that he traditionally uses. Um, kind of slick with it, but most of it blatant. Just um, leaning, the neck wrenching, the elbows, the all of this stuff. But there's also more talk about the flopping gloves as well. So for this time, though, this show, the boxing breakdown, is focused on the analysis of the fights, the actual breakdown of the fights. I kind of want to break down the scenario that surrounded the fight, because the spectacle post the Fury fight seemed to be a cover-up attempt, or seemed to be uh, more so to try to justify what had just taken place, the shit show that we just suffered through with Fury and Chisora. And I had my suspicions coming into this that Fury would try to cover his tracks by, again, being a boxer, a standard boxer first, who overnight evolved into a puncher. And it wouldn't make sense if he just um, if he didn't fight dirty and he fought clean and had a terrible performance against Derek Chisora. So he had to do something, thinking in the mind of a psycho, he had to do something to make sure that it was not only a successful performance because it was at home for him, but that it was a statement of a performance. So right after the performance, instead of allowing that to be the event that closed off the night, he put more energy into his post fight than he did the actual fight, and more of a of an investment of energy into the charade that was after the fight than more so than that was during the fight. So the charade that I'm referring to is the call out. Well, first starting with the Derek Chisora chant slash anthem. He fought Deontay Wilder 3 times, and he fought Derek Chisora 3 times. Deontay Wilder, who he's on record as stating being the most dangerous fighter on the planet. No one can take his power, and essentially, aside of himself, no one can fuck with him, right? But uh, then he pays that much respect to Derek Chisora for fighting him the third time, essentially trying to milk the fans. Like, hey, I know I didn't fight a champion. I know I didn't even fight a ranked top five, but for the opponent that I have, essentially, he's still a warrior. He's still something great. But in translation, he's a fighting man. Whoa, Derek Chisora. Whoa, for 5 minutes of dick sucking over there. And then after that, and to me it seemed, because before this, Derek Chisora said he had a gag order, but Tyson Fury cheated in the first 2 fights. So we got the Christian Hammer cheating, the SS Cunningham cheating, the Wilder cheating, to the Derek Chisora cheating. We have many different sources and then different colors of this, but I didn't want to harp on the actual cheating or even focus on that. But it's something that's buzzing up in the community from many different angles. So because I didn't want it to seem like, oh, he beat a black guy and he cheated again, but it's a part of his DNA. It's a part of his makeup. So we can't be viewed as the guys pulling the black card. But again, let's get to the charade. Let's stick focus on the charade post fight. So he was focusing on trying to celebrate Derek Chisora and get the crowd to follow him and chanting Derek Chisora. And it seemed like a way to butter up Derek Chisora to make sure not only he obeyed the gag order, but that he only had positive things to say. And the only thing he had to say was, me and Tyson Fury are friends and that he should fight Usyk next. Then that prompted Tyson Fury to go in his full wrestler mode and put on his Macho Man Randy Savage voice and, oh, Usyk, where's Usyk? And this is Usyk in the building, you son of a bitch, and all of this other stuff. Started calling him out of his name, trying to belittle him. And this lands to the second part of the charade. So there's a trifecta. There's the Chisora, which we covered. There's the Usyk part of the trifecta, and then there's a Juggernaut Joyce part of the trifecta. So the Usyk part of the trifecta is the Two Face. Um, Wilder said he would respect Usyk because he seemed to be an honorable man and a stand-up guy, and he wouldn't in any interview even entertain the idea of Usyk ducking him. Usyk initiated this back and forth between Deontay Wilder a while back, but echoed it right after his return that he would go to the Deontay Wilder fight. He happened to be in America at that time. We know Europeans over there, if they're in Europe, they travel from country to country like we travel from state to state. And he proved that, and I'll get there, but he was in the United States the day after the Deontay Wilder fight. He had to be in LA, or California, but he didn't make it a thing to be there for Deontay Wilder. So it looked like he was starting to clout chase. But not only that, he stated that he was going to be there and didn't show up. He stated that he wanted to fight Deontay Wilder next, and went silent regarding Deontay Wilder after Deontay Wilder decapitated Robert Helenius. Fast forward to the Fury situation. He's not only he had a back and forth with Fury, but he said he wasn't going to be fighting Fury this year, possibly next year. But it doesn't say he's going to pop up at Fury's fight, but he pops up at Fury's fight and is in the building. Not only is in the building, but gets in the ring. Amidst the is Usyk in the building, and where you at, pussy, and bitch, bring your ass in here, all of that shit, right? Um, so he shows up there. Why does that make him two-faced? Because in one sense, a man who's paying you the respect and saying you're an honorable individual, and that he won't even entertain the idea of you ducking, and then you show him the opposite of you being an honorable individual. But when it comes to Wild Fury, now all of a sudden you prioritize the undisputed, which you didn't before. The last thing you said where you wasn't fighting um, Fury right away, and that clearly you wanted Deontay Wilder because those were your last public statements that we had. Um, so that said, it takes us to the final part of this trifecta of the charade. While he's belittling Usyk, we get the entrance of Joe. I think I'm more important than undisputed Joyce. I don't know what prompted him other than I think I'm more important than undisputed to get in the ring in between a conversation that's currently happening in the present between a unified champion and the champion that holds the only other belt out there. So he gets in there and he's like, I'm available. If he doesn't want to fight you, I'll fight you. Yeah, yeah, I'll fight you, yeah. And he starts turning up, and, Fury starts sucking his dick. Another essentially deflection tactic to try to take away from everything that's happened in front of us. So he's like, yeah, nobody will fight you. Everybody's ducking you, and he's sucking his dick right in front of Usyk, and he's like, Usyk's a bitch, and if Usyk doesn't want to fight me, I'll fight you. And they're screaming in each other's faces, having like a Viking celebration. It was just a very odd but obvious like you're trying too hard, like you're telegraphing the fact that if this wasn't staged, you feel me, like if the Usyk thing clearly wasn't staged because he wasn't sure if Usyk was in the building, and then Usyk spontaneously got in the ring and they started to have their spat in which Usyk wasn't saying anything, so it made Fury have to work harder. But then it seemed like Fury had the Juggernaut thing planned because why did you show up and pop up to even start talking at all? There's nothing that would justify you coming in the ring if Usyk was supposed to be there, like if they planned Usyk being there. So I think Usyk coming in the ring threw off the natural charade, which was, or the natural plan, which was probably let's um, pat Derek Chisora on the back and butter up Derek Chisora, and then Juggernaut Joyce pops up out of nowhere, and I have a back and forth with him, so that the people can be caught up in sensationalism, focusing on what happened last instead of what they showed up there for, what they actually bought tickets for. So yeah, I feel like he invested his time and planning not only into cheating, but even more so into the post-fight charade and the cover-up. And that's my breakdown regarding the Fury cover attempt. While in the parallel universe, we had real boxing taking place, as far as I could tell, and that was Chocolatito and Estrada, and it was a great card by the zone. I got to be honest, it was a great card by the zone, and Amma Williams did an excellent job. He still has defensively things he can tighten up on, and but Chocolatito and Roman Gonzalez. I feel weird calling him Chocolatito, but Roman Gonzalez and Juan Francisco Estrada had put a wonderful end to their trilogy. I believed that Gonzalez did enough to edge out the fight, but Estrada did a lot with his lateral movement and maintaining distance and control, but it wasn't like they weren't trading. Like it wasn't like Estrada flawlessly controlled uh, Chocolatito without return fire, and it wasn't like Chocolatito pressured and landed volume on Estrada without being countered or without him initiating and being first and being last on Gonzalez at times. So that said, wonderful end to their trilogy. Great, a solid card by the zone. Uh, I have to admit, Eddie Hearn, he was right. He has been putting on some solid cards this past year. But the issue that I'm more so focused on, um, that occurred that night was the fact that Nonito Donaire was in the building, and we know that he's chasing to be a champion in another division to conclude his career. And there's nothing more admirable than someone who knows they're past their prime, and they're seeking and they're seeking to not only continue and prove their body wrong, and that that their spirit will supersede any slow breaking down, but the fact that and that's just a default of trying to sustain fighting as a professional. But the fact that he's chasing greatness by chasing his final another division and being a champion is ridiculous. So he's in the building. He was, in my mind, tricked into consumerism, him and his family, because clearly they spent money being at the event, whether they got a free ticket or not. They spent money on drinks, or you know how that works. Spent money on merch, possibly supporting a fighter. That said, or fighters. That said, his purpose in being there was to get in the ring and challenge the winner. And Nonito Donaire isn't like he's he's one of the greatest bantamweights to do it. So it's not like he's unrecognizable when you see him, and it's not like his name. If you say it, you can react as if who is Nonito. Far from that, he's very recognizable. If you know anything about boxing, and meaning his name holds weight, but they refused to let him in the ring. There's video on my man Skywalker Boxing, TWT. Shout out TWT. Shout out Skywalker Boxing. He has a video that captures Miss Donaire, uh, Rachel, and going back and forth with security. Like they had security called on them, and they refused by any means to let Nonito get in there and call out the winner. And I think if I'm analyzing it from my perspective, that has a lot to do with the handlers of Estrada, as well as their boss. Let's be real, more so Eddie Hearn, because that would be a spontaneous thing where they're like, okay, we won, so we edged it out, but make sure he doesn't get in the ring if they knew beforehand. But if they didn't know beforehand, they couldn't prepare to prevent it. That said, I put it more so on Eddie Hearn, seeing as Eddie Hearn knows that Nonito is represented by Probellum, and he has no invested interest in his fighter losing to a Probellum fighter. So I believe Eddie Hearn and used his DAZN connections and power to make sure that any fighter who was in attendance couldn't cause anything, any stir up or any issue that didn't have financial interest. I mean, that Eddie didn't have a financial interest in. If Eddie couldn't benefit off of a matchup exclusively, being a side of the street scenario, then it didn't seem as though he wanted that to happen. So, and that said, to put simply, it didn't seem like Eddie wanted to sell those belts to Nonito, because regardless, Nonito can beat Estrada and and Roman Gonzalez. That's not even a question, to be honest. He's been proven to be one of the biggest punchers at a weight class higher than either of those guys have ever gotten, and handled his business in a weight class above that as well. So, yeah, that said, actually, yeah, one weight class higher than either of them have gotten. So, that said, I thought it was blatant uh, display of the corruption in boxing to have a professional fighter, well, let a legend, let alone a professional fighter, be denied the ability to make a fight. Um, that said, let's talk some Devin and Shakur scenarios. So Shakur calls out Devin Haney after he beats Conceição, or essentially says he wants the belts, and the only person who has the belts is Devin Haney. Um, it comes out that Shakur calls their team and says that uh, his handlers at Top Rank forced, well, not forced him, but told him to say that. If that's the fight he wanted next, then there's no, regardless if they told you to say it or not, there's no reason to not. I mean, there's no reason to apologize or to try to clean it up. If that's the fight you want next, regardless of how it came out, this is a gladiator sport. We're going to war in there. We're not going there to be on the same team or high five each other. So for him to clean it up, it was almost an admission that that wasn't what he was chasing next. He allowed people to interpret that as he was scared, and that got back to him. So he is on live or on a video with Trill Bill Haney, going back and forth, essentially saying, uh, you wrong for saying that it was a publicity stunt, and you're wrong for making it seem like I'm scared of Devin. I ain't scared of Devin. Like, what's up, on that aggression, on that aggressive tip, essentially trying to clear his name. And you can understand why someone would try to clear their name if they don't fear any man, and also if that is a fight that they're interested in. uh, you don't want to make it seem like you have any less interest than you've expressed before. So there's a duality here. One being you did backtrack by apologizing to maybe preserve a friendship, and but it was something that you said and that you called to clean up. Uh, it wasn't something that Devin said. It wasn't something that Devin did. Devin got all of the belts. He's the man. So you said something about the man. When you called and cleaned it up, Bill responded essentially saying that it was a publicity stunt or he didn't mean what he said, and Shakur took offense to that. Seeing as Shakur took offense to it, I think that's the issue that that truly caused this spat more so in between the two, and not that because it was the word that he used, publicity stunt, that had Shakur his panties in a bunch, if you will, because it made him look like what he's been hearing, that people believe he's scared of Devin. But for you to state something and then call and say they told me to say it, it would sound like a publicity stunt. So the adjective he chose wasn't completely off. That said, Devin gets into the conversation in defense of his father, essentially saying, "Why are you worried about what my dad is saying?" And my dad is not only my dad, but he's the president of Devin Haney Promotions, and he's my manager as well and my coach. Um, so he's on my team. But and Devin made a solid point here. He said, "But you didn't have that same energy for or level of criticism about your guy, Keyshawn, who's on your team, who's a friend of yours, who's basically your family because you consider him your brother, when he was speaking about me." So I didn't. So basically, you can't get mad at a team member for speaking the truth about someone they represent, but have your team members be speaking willy nilly, and they're not subject to criticism. And Shakur's justification was that Keyshawn's a grown man, and that Keyshawn has his own team, but that's your brother, and you guys' teams are intersected. So that was like a point that didn't really make sense coming from Shakur. But I feel like this was falling for the banana in the tailpipe. Why? Because both of these guys have hostility and animosity towards Gervonta Tank Davis. And Gervonta Tank Davis, who just had his press conference today, um, caused a lot of the back and forth between these two, because Devin Haney's representative, Trill Bill Haney, was celebrating Thanksgiving and on the Thanksgiving campaign, and essentially trying to build and educate people on the information behind the fight and the rumors that Gervonta Davis had put out there. And then you had Shakur, who already had people turning him down for his next opponent after he stated he's moving up. So he's been doing a lot of videos and interviews regarding the people who are ducking him at 135, not giving him the opportunity, i.e., Pitbull Cruz, and him shooting his shot to have a dancing partner with the Zepeda, I believe. Yeah, William Zepeda. Um, so that Thanksgiving campaign, as well as the campaign for Shakur's next opponent, bled into each other. That's why I say it's almost like a falling for a banana in a tailpipe, because their individual campaigns that because I also left out that Shakur had part of his campaign responding to Tank, because Tank interrupted with all of the drama in both campaigns, uh, with F those guys, and I'm the leader of the new school, contradicting with what Shakur said, that I believe me, Devin, and Shakur really running shit, and Tank's on some I'm not friends with none of these niggas, and y'all know how I'm coming, and blah blah blah. So, and then it started getting even more heated when he swore he cracked these guys, and can't none of these guys fuck with him. So Devin and Shakur were both responding to Tank Davis, and then after Tank stirred the pot up and caused the high level of emotions, he goes silent, and then leaves these guys with his energy that he left in the room, and allowed them to go at it while he built attention on himself for his next fight, which is against not a nobody, but not against either of those two special fighters. So that said, it was the chaos, or the a genius move on behalf of the Tank handlers and Tank camp to have him finally, because Tank tweets and deletes, and Tank uh, doesn't really say anything to anybody until it's time for a fight, or unless he's trying to draw attention to himself, whether he was dissing Deontay Wilder, whether he was coming at Terrence Crawford, or saying anything about anybody. It's always either something to sell his fight that is not equal caliber of the people he's talking about, or or to draw attention to himself before he has a fight. So it's like he's either using that to sell his own fights, which is funny because he said he's not allowing Devin Haney to be built off of his name, but you bring up Devin Haney before you fight every fight at this point, or you bring up these guys, or interact with these guys, or reference these guys indirectly, tweet and delete, and make people stay on your neck. You know what I mean? So that being said, let's move on to the final point before I get up out of here, and that's David Avanesian versus Terrence Bud Crawford. We get that fight this week, as well as, I believe, anyway, and Paul Butler. So we the outcomes obvious here. We could expect Paul Butler to lose, and we could expect David Avanesian to lose. But let's break down the possibilities. So if David Avanesian actually loses, he beat a number six. He beat a ranked number six. So what do you have to say about beating a ranked number six in place of fighting for three belts? Obviously, there's a big fall off between talent and skill set there, and then the fighters in between that. You could have fought the Stanionis, Keith Thurman, Boots Ennis, Virgil Ortiz, all of those good names. You look over for a David Avanesian. So the guy is ranked number six, though. So he has to have some skill set. He has to have something that he's coming with. And basic isn't uh, basic seems to be a problem for um, Terrence Crawford. Sean Porter has one style, and essentially, and he faced issues with that. Kell Brook has one style essentially, and he faced issues with that. And Igas Kavalaskis has one style, and he faced issues with that. Felix Diaz, I can go on and on about it. I mean, I watched a lot of Bud fights. Larte, I mean not Larte. Hank Lundy. There's a lot of guys that were able to present some difficulty. Yes, he was able to figure them out, but none more so than Mean Machine, which was pretty recent, and even Sean Porter, which was pretty recent. So when we look at the possibility that Basic can uh, can present issues for Bud, what can be the worst of the worst? The worst of the worst is that David Avenesian can become champion, and then we could get David Avenesian versus Earl Spence for undisputed instead of Terrence Crawford versus Earl Spence for undisputed. Now, does that make Earl Spence a duck because Terrence Crawford chose to fight a ranked number 6 who turned out and beat him, cherry picking and then end up picking the pepper and burning himself? And now we're all fucked out of the great fight of the sport, just like how Anthony Joshua fucked us out of the Wilder fight, right? But the upside is Terrence can get his bag since he feels that the world is mad at him for getting his bag, and hopefully we can see Bomac in his corner so that we know that the family is okay, and maybe Terrence Crawford gives us a spectacular one punch knockout, and and one of the other trainers, one of his 3 trainers, is working in Keyshawn's corner. That's not Bomac, so again we can hear something from Bomac and see them together so that we know that B&B is still a thing, and then we can he can let EJ spin the block and hopefully accept this time, right? That's the best case scenario. But I don't wish for any black man's downfall, and I'm gonna remind myself to constantly that it's a code, black affair, and to stay on code when it comes to my people on this channel and in life. So I'm not gonna even jump out of pocket and hope or wish that David Avenesian beats Terrence Crawford. I hate to be the boxing optimist because typically, if it's too good to be true, which was the latter scenario that I told you about, but it's most likely not going to happen. But anything can happen in boxing, so that doesn't reduce David Avenesian's chances to 0. Um, but it does make his chances very slim to none, fucking with a fighter as talented as Bud. So I hope Bud has a spectacular performance. I hope right after that he's so geeked up in himself and his belief in himself is so high that he fights Earl Spence and we get a great fight at the top of next year. Um, but if something else crazy happens and and we don't get Bud retaining his title and David Avenesian does, I hope that Avnesian doesn't get the Cambosis Teofimo effect or bug in which you believe you're a star overnight because you became champion. No, you became champion overnight, and technically it wasn't overnight because it was your however many so years plus your dedication and efforts that you put in that made that happen. But the only thing that happened overnight is that you were a contender before and now you're a champion. Doesn't mean you're a star. So I hope he doesn't turn celebrity headed or big headed and try to stall out Earl Spence because I believe that means we just will not get Earl Spence as undisputed. I think Earl Spence would just move up because that would be an entire year past what he said was going to happen, and he's been an oracle thus far. So that said, love y'all. Appreciate y'all for stopping by and continue to support the channel. We're gonna keep getting better. We're gonna keep growing. Continue to support me. I have faith in me. I fight for y'all. So I'm gonna get in a winners column, and I'm gonna make sure that I deliver something for us all to be proud of and to look back on and be like, yeah, that was the little homie. That's the little bro, and or that's the OG. And to be able to say I learned a lot from him. That said, again, love y'all. You reached in your combat tool bag. It is a code black affair. There are three ways to support the channel family. One way, number one, is shopusualsuspect6.com. 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 Get you some combat tool bag merch. We have combat tool bags. We have shoes. The cross trainers. We have warm weather gear. We have cool weather gear. That's leggings, sweats, uh, shorts, hats, everything. Shop usualsuspect6.com. And we have a book series, Hustle God series. It's available on Amazon.com. You can type in Michelangelo Turner. You can type in Hustle God series. And you will find Hustle God Art of the Hustle. Um, you'll find Hustle God Afro Gold Part 1. You'll find Hustle God's Linguistics of Money, Language of the 1%. You'll find Hustle God Masterpiece, Daily Gold and Mind Molding. You'll also find Hustle God Methodology, which is a collection of all 4 books. Um, the link will be in the descriptions of ways to support. And last but not least, the final way to support the channel is you can sponsor a fighter, you can sponsor a creator by diving into the Cash App. You can donate anything, any amount goes a long way. The cash tag is hustlegodinc. The cash tag again is money sign hustle god inc, money sign hustle god inc. Again, love y'all. Till next time, deuces.